7. Southeast is 27-8 and will play at SIU Edwardsville Saturday. The Blues won a shootout with Colorado 3-2.
Get local sports updates on SEMO ESPN 1220, SEMOESPN.com, and the SEMO ESPN app.
Do you, EBO?
I want better health care.
That's an advantage of EBO-MD.
But I also want to save money.
Another advantage of EBO-MD.
What about my kids?
Kids are only $10 a month with an adult membership with EBO-MD.
I want my kids seen right away if they're sick.
Another advantage of EBO-MD.
I want to pay less for medications and lab work.
Another advantage of EBO-MD.
And I don't want to have to pay a copay.
Another advantage of EBO-MD. It just makes sense. Switch to EBO-MD and save. Primary health care you can afford. Call now and get half off your first month's membership. The staff at EBO-MD is friendly, and you get same-day appointments. Call today at 573-803-2941. Half-price offer not valid with any other offer contracts and does not apply to children's pricing. Minimum 6-month commitment required. Again, call today at 573-803-2941 or online at doyouebo.com. doyouebo.com.
Play ball!
It's me, Carl the Catfish.
Strike!
The Cape Catfish are joining the neighborhood at Kappahaw Field.
Save! The Cape Catfish are coming. Season tickets, ticket packages, and single game tickets go on sale April 4th. Visit CapeCatfish.com or get official Cape Catfish merchandise and tickets at 83 South Plaza Way in Cape.
And now, your ESPN Radio Network local weather forecast.
An abundant sunshine here today as we'll see temperatures edge up to 63. Clear tonight, low 42. Sun in the morning tomorrow, but clouds increasing in the afternoon with tomorrow's high 70. And scattered showers and thunderstorms on tap for Thursday with Thursday's high near 60. Friday, clouds in the forecast, a high near 70. We're here to Weddington, the Weather Channel.
You're up to date with the latest weather forecast right here on the ESPN Radio Network.
This is Mike Greenberg for the best in local sports talk and play-by-play. It's SEMO ESPN.
This is a proud presentation of Mississippi River Radio Sports, the sports authority. Live in the studio, it's time for the Red Hot Coaches Show. Live from Wings, etc. Hear the Coaches Show each week on SEMO ESPN 1220 and 1470. And also at SEMOESPN.com and the SEMO ESPN app. Also watch the Red Hot Coaches Show webcast live at SEMOESPN.com. Now, let's go live to Wings, etc. for the Red Hot Coaches Show.
Welcome in to the Red Hawks Coaches Show. We are at Wings, etc. We're in the Jackson location, and keep in mind, this is our next to last show of the spring. So we have one more show for the Coaches Show before we again take the hiatus until fall when football season gets here. And we're going to be talking some Red Hawks tennis today. In Jackson, we've got plenty of room for you. If you have not decided what you're going to do for lunch, we invite you to stop by Wings, etc. We'll be here until 1 o'clock. And don't forget, on Mondays, they have their award-winning jumbo wings for just 69 cents. They've got food and drink specials throughout the week. And if you want to check out their menu, they have freshly made burgers, wraps, subs, quesadillas, entree salads, and much more. You want the wings, bone in or bone out, it is your choice. You can dine in with us or you can carry out. Call ahead. We see people coming in, trying to get in and out on their lunch hour, maybe picking up some lunch for the office. You can stop by Wings, etc. in both locations, Cape and Jackson. We've got the Final Four in basketball coming up. This is your home for NCAA March Madness. You can watch the Final Four right here at Wings. Cardinals baseball is underway. Cards are idle today, but they will be playing tomorrow in Pittsburgh. You can watch the Redbirds play here at Wings. The St. Louis Blues getting ready for the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. And we're certainly your home for Blues hockey here at Wings, etc. We're going to be talking with Mary Beth Gunn. She is the tennis coach for Southeast Missouri State. Isabella Krupa is going to join us as well. Now, Coach Gunn, welcome. The word on the street is that Isabella lives in Kissimmee, Florida. So she lives in Disney World, basically.
Basically, yes.
Got to find out how many times she's been to Disney World and Universal and MGM and all of those things with that all right in her backyard. But we'll be talking with Isabella Krupa coming up a little bit later on, and we'll check with her. But the word on the street is that her boyfriend actually is an employee of Wings, etc. Now it's unconfirmed, but we'll have to see how that goes.
I'm pretty sure that he does work here.
Okay, well, we'll get to the bottom of it, that's for sure, when she joins us coming up in just a few minutes. Athletics Director Brady Barkey is here with his lovely wife. We've got a nice turnout here at Wings, etc. You just got weathered out over the weekend against Tennessee State. We had some issues as far as weather goes for baseball up in Charleston, Illinois. I know the softball team had a doubleheader postponed because of the weather. They had to move a doubleheader from Sunday to Monday. Just what was the weather like, and are there rules in the OVC? I know there is in softball that if it's below a certain temperature, you can't play. Is that something that they enforce in tennis as well?
Yes, so the rule is that it has to be 50 degrees or higher. And the wind speed has to be 20 or below to play. So we were just a couple of degrees off on Sunday. We were close.
So the wind speed, that has nothing to do with, say it's a warm day, but the wind is really strong. Does the wind come into play at all?
It does. So that's why if it was forecast to be like a 25-mile-per-hour wind day, that we wouldn't play that day.
That's interesting. I did not know that. Because certainly in the game of tennis, that could really affect some things, right?
The wind most definitely has a big effect on tennis, and it's something that we specifically work on in practice, because when you're playing, you also have to switch sides. So sometimes you're hitting with the wind versus against, and so there's a very specific way that you have to play when you're playing in windy conditions. And it can be an equalizer for the teams as well. So maybe you're playing someone a little worse than you. It makes them a little better because they're getting to hit with the wind, things like that. So it most definitely changes the game, and you have to be play really smart when you're playing in the wind.
Now did you come straight from UT Martin to Southeast?
I didn't. I had a couple of other schools I worked at.
Okay, now I saw Limestone College. I don't think I've ever heard of Limestone. Where is Limestone?
It's located in Gaffney, South Carolina, so right on the North Carolina border. It's a Division II school, and I worked with the men's and women's programs there.
All right, you got the job in 2015, and you took over a program that had gone winless in the OVC the year before, a 1-19 record. So when you got the job, did you realize how big of an overhaul it was going to take?
I did. I knew that it was going to be an uphill battle, but this is where I want it to be. I want it to be somewhere within range from my hometown, which is in Tennessee, and I want it to be back in the OVC. And I always knew that SEMO could have a successful program if the right person took it over. And so I was really excited for the challenge of being able to come in here and try to build something.
So in your first season, you end up finishing 13-8, fifth in the Ohio Valley Conference, and advanced to the OVC tournament for the first time in 10 years. How much of a big goal was it before the season started? Ladies, we need to get to the OVC tournament.
Oh, yeah, that was our number one goal for sure. And they were hungry. They were really hungry for it. You know, we were out to prove something like, hey, we are good. We can do this. We had a couple of really good recruits coming in that year as well, which helped beef up our lineup. And it was most definitely, it was on our mind every day. And if you do want to make that tournament, it does from day one back in August. It's got to be on your mind.
So how many years did you spend at UT Martin? 4?
Yes.
Okay, 4 years at UT Martin. You just beat UT Martin in tennis, and it had been a couple of years since SEMO had beaten UT Martin in tennis. How long had it been?
It had been 20 years since SEMO had beat UT Martin in tennis.
How good did that feel? I know just to beat any team that you haven't beaten in 20 years, but to beat the team where you worked for 4 years, it had to have a little more importance to you, didn't it?
It did. It was a special win. I also played at UT Martin, so it was my head coach was who we were playing against still. He still coaches there. So it was my mentor. He still helps me out, and I really appreciate it. And so it was really significant for this program. The ladies were hungry to beat them. We always have close, tough matches with them, so it was exciting to go in and be able to prove ourselves against them.
So what's the bragging rights like now? When you text your former coach, you got bragging rights, right?
Sure.
So as far as conference play goes, now you're getting ready to go to Austin Peay, right? Now they are 14-0. How much scouting can you do? How much video can you see? How much scouting can the individual players do for their opponents?
So we don't get videos from the conference schools. We're not required to send videos. We don't have any of that. What I have my players do each time we play any OVC opponents, whether it's at a tournament or whether we played them last year, is they have to do their own match analysis. Because also there's 6 courts in one me, so I don't get to see a whole lot of every single match. So I use that information a lot when we're trying to prepare and practice. That's really one of the biggest things we do to try to prepare is we have to look and see, do we know what some of their weaknesses are going in? Do we know if they're a lefty or a righty? That's a big thing too. So we do the best we can, you know.
Are there any schools that do broadcast any matches, tennis matches, maybe on ESPN Plus or the OVC Digital Network? Is there a way to get any video on any opponents?
It's really difficult because, again, you're talking about 6 courts, and it's just really not available.
All right, so set the picture for people that have never been to a collegiate tennis match. How many matches are going on at one time, and you know how, as far as the actual tennis facilities that you play in, most of the tennis facilities have how many courts and the availability for how many matches at one time?
Sure. So we start the match off with doubles. We play 3 doubles matches. You have to win 2 out of the 3 doubles match to get 1 point for your team. Immediately after doubles, we get a 5-minute break, and then we're on to singles. There's 6 singles matches. So essentially, for your team to win, you have to get 4 out of 7 points.
And the matches, so you're playing in a facility that has at least 6 courts on it.
Correct.
Okay, so 6 matches going on at the same time.
Right.
What are you doing during the matches? I mean, are you going to specific? Are you going to specific matches? How do you keep track of what the scores are all the time, and maybe your attention needs to be on this match versus this one? How does that work for you?
I start off, I have a game plan of where I think it's going to be a close match or something like that, and I have an idea of how some of the matchups are going to be. So I have a game plan going in, and obviously sometimes after the first set that can change. I would say that also I'm with the maybe underclassmen more than the upperclassmen because they have more experience, and I trust that they can kind of take care of things on court as well. They know what they need to do. So, I mean, it changes kind of how the matches are going. We do have scorecards up, so I can see if somebody's won their set or if they're down or something like that. So if I do see someone's getting behind, I do normally try to jump over there really quick if I can. To get there to see kind of what's going on.
Mary Beth Gunn is the head tennis coach at Southeast Missouri State. Joining us here, it's the Coaches Show from Wings Etc. in Jackson. How much actual coaching are you allowed to do during a match? I know anybody who's watched professional tennis, there has been a big stink about maybe coaches are in the crowd and maybe flash a signal to a player and everyone is up in arms. It's against the rules. What are you at the Division I level? How much coaching can you actually do during a match?
Oh, it's completely different. For college, we're allowed to be on the court coaching in between every point. So as they're hitting the ball, I can't coach. But after the point ends, then I'm able to go out. Like, I can physically, like, go out on court. Like, I can't, like, we have a time limit of 25 seconds in between each point. But I can go out, and we also do have signs that we throw. So if I think we need to serve in a certain spot or return in a certain spot, I can throw those signs really quick as well, and we can do that.
Are you, since you're not allowed, or you really don't have access to scouting reports, are you able to assess some things pretty quickly and then kind of pass that along to your players to say, hey, this looks like a potential weakness, let's attack this?
Most definitely. You're looking for pattern plays. So if you get stuck in a pattern play 2 or 3 times and it's not working, then you've got to pick up on those pattern plays really quick and say, hey, we are losing the point every time that we're getting into this situation, so we need to not get in that situation, and we try to come up with an alternative.
How big of a jump is it? And we'll ask Isabella when we speak with her. How big of a jump is it for a lot of these ladies to go from high school tennis to Division I tennis?
Well, we're also recruiting a lot internationally, so some of the players we have coming in are playing in some high-level tournaments. So I think as far as the level goes, a lot of them have a good experience coming in. But I think it's different pressure-wise because at our matches there's a lot of noise. The teams are loud. There's a high energy, and it's not just you playing for yourself anymore. You know, you have a team that's relying on you as well. So I think it's more of the mental, being able to handle the mental side of now I'm not just playing for myself, but I'm playing for my teammates now.
Well, the way that your roster is made up, 5 freshmen, a sophomore, a junior, and 2 seniors. 5 freshmen, is that a lot? I mean, in your experience, is that a lot for 1 year to have 5 freshmen?
Absolutely. I mean, it's over half our team, so it's a lot.
But your number 1 is actually a freshman.
Yeah, that was a really good pickup because we actually lost our number 1 last year. And so being able to bring in a freshman who can play at that level and be successful has been really great for our lineup.
Romana Terayova is the freshman who plays number 1. When you recruited her, did you anticipate her being the number 1, or did she just end up surprising you and decided, hey, I'm going to grab the number 1 spot here?
I anticipated her playing 1, and when I was talking to Brady about her as well, I was like, we need to get her. I was like, she's going to come in and hopefully be able to come in and play at that number 1 spot. So that's most definitely what I was anticipating when I was recruiting her.
Now, we have had you on the Coaches Show before, and I was fascinated with how you do the recruiting because Brady authorizes all of the plane tickets for when you want to fly to Slovakia, when you want to fly to Macedonia, when you're flying to Ukraine and France where you have players from. So, he's authorizing the expenditure for all of those plane tickets. Oh, no, you can't actually travel to these countries. How do you recruit these players from these faraway destinations to come to Cape Girardeau and play tennis?
So this might surprise some people, but I actually use YouTube a lot in recruiting. People post YouTube videos, and I will look up their results and watch their video and then contact them from there.
How does the NCAA put their guidelines on your ability to, because in a lot of sports, you can't speak with the recruit here. You can't go see them at a certain time. You can only correspond maybe via emails or, mail them letters or things like that. What are your guidelines for actually physically talking to recruits that say maybe in another country, maybe FaceTime, maybe Skype, things of that nature? How does that work with the NCAA?
Well, a Skype call or a video call counts as a phone call. So it's the same rules. I'm just not physically going there. So it's really not so many issues when I'm recruiting just because I'm not having to worry about contacts and evaluations and things like that because I'm not there.
In many countries, maybe tennis ranks a little higher on the spectrum than it does for the United States. What percentages are you seeing from teams that you are playing, foreign players versus American-born players?
Well, when looking at the OVC, it's mostly international players are on the rosters. I'd say the exception of that is going to be Belmont. But for the most part, even if you're playing your non-conference schedule against other Division I schools, I would say the percent of rosters of international is going to be anywhere from 80% to 100. I've also been I work on recruiting regionally as well. We do have a freshman on our team from Memphis, and she's playing 6 singles and number 1 doubles, and she's been doing a terrific job. So when I can recruit regionally someone who can come in and play, then we're all about that too.
So Bogota, Colombia, Slovakia, Macedonia, Stockholm, Ukraine, and France. How often is the language barrier an issue? I mean, how oftentimes do the recruits do not speak English, and how do you communicate in a situation like that?
So they have to have minimum test scores to get admitted to the university. Obviously, the first semester, there are some maybe language barriers as far as they're still learning the communication part, speaking face-to-face. But for the most part, they've been preparing for this for a long time, for years. They've been learning English since they're, in Sweden maybe since they're 5 years old, very young. If you talk to Maya, you wouldn't know she was from Sweden. Her English is, it's better than mine. So, and most of them too, because you have to make a certain score on the TOEFL and SAT to get admitted. So your English has to be pretty good in order to study at university.
So as far as local players, Grace Powderly is from Cape Girardeau, went to Notre Dame High School. Tell us a little bit about the recruitment of Grace.
Yeah, Grace, she's great. We love having her on the team. She's the kind of player who's going to come in every day and give you 100% and is going to push other people. She has high energy. We love having her on the program. I really feed off her energy because I'm a high energy person as well. And she's just really fantastic in that aspect. She is a local kid. She wanted to come here. Both her parents came to school at SEMO, so there's a lot of SEMO pride that runs in her family. And they've been great about coming out and supporting us. It's great to have some local supporters on the team too.
Do you find that there are players who excel much better in doubles than they do in singles?
Sure, it's a different game a little bit. So and it's shorter points. So there most definitely are some players who are more suited for singles than doubles, and vice versa. And especially talking about freshmen transitioning to college, most of the time they've played way more singles than doubles. So you're starting kind of from scratch with the doubles, and it's really a learning process for them, coming in learning how to play big college tennis doubles.
I started playing tennis when I was 13, played a lot in the summertime, and the scoring has changed a lot, right? Now, what if we're tuning in and we are watching, say, Wimbledon or the U.S. Open, the scoring is not the same. You can't have these matches that they have at Wimbledon where, the final score is like 19-17 in the fifth set. That's not the case in college tennis. Explain the scoring system that is set up, and it is set up so that you don't have marathon matches, right?
Sure. The NCAA a couple years ago changed our scoring system so that way we weren't playing 5-hour matches, because that's kind of what it was becoming. We were playing really long matches, and they just, I think, wanted to make it also more TV friendly when you get into the tournament time. So cutting down the time a little bit on that, and then also for the health and well-being of our student athletes. So the biggest difference between us and professional is that we're not playing with ad. So that means that when it comes to that final point, you don't have to win by 2. It's just, that's it. It's a golden point. Whoever wins that point wins the game.
Okay, so explain the scoring.
Okay, so basically you have to win 4 points to win the game.
So if you're tied at 3, the next point wins regardless.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
All right. And as far as the doubles starting out the match, then where does it go? Does the number 1 player, do the 2 number 1s meet then? I mean, how does it go? Or they're all going at the same time?
So we already have courts assigned, so they know what position they're playing and what court they need to go to. So after all 3 doubles are played at the same time, and once the doubles are finished, then we immediately go into singles play. So everybody just goes to their court, they know where to go, and then they get started.
So when the doubles are going on, are the teammates, they're rooting on their teammates? Are they getting loose? Are they getting ready to go? Take us through, what's going on once a match gets underway.
And most of the people who are playing doubles are also playing singles. So we don't have 2 separate doubles and singles lined up. And then for the non-players, they're out there cheering, really getting everybody going. It's a really loud environment because it's where everybody's fighting for our team. So that's what they're trying to do is get their teammates going.
All right, let's talk a little bit about some individual players. Now, Romana Terayova, who has been your number 1, talk a little bit about the season that she's been having.
Yeah, she's had a fantastic season, and she's really had some big wins, and she's done a great job too of staying in the match. She doesn't get down. She's able to come back. She doesn't let anybody just run over her. Nobody's just beating her flat out. So she's done a great job competing, and she's gotten really a lot of quality wins over some, and I told her from the beginning, I was like, you're going to play a hard match every match. There's not going to be a free one, because you're playing one. So, but she's done a great job handling it, and she's really gotten some quality wins this season.
What is the biggest thing for, say, a freshman to be thrust into the number 1 spot? What are the things that need to happen emotionally or psychologically when you are the number 1 player and knowing that you're going to be taking on fantastic opposition and not to live and die with every point, because I know sometimes if you start reliving points, then those points could beat you going forward in a match.
Yeah, and we're also fortunate that we can have coaches on court too. So if we can start seeing somebody kind of going down that road of reliving past points, we're able to kind of try and interject and say, wait a sec, we can't do that. We need to be focusing on this, and really trying to focus on a positive game plan, to get yourself back into action. Because most of the time it's not that you're not good enough to compete with this person. It's, maybe we're making the wrong decisions, or maybe we're in our head so much that we're not allowing ourselves to play.
Do you have a bit of an advantage maybe if you are going into a particular match where if you are playing someone who has been in the league for maybe 2 or 3 years, you know a lot of the tendencies of that player? In this case, Romana is a freshman. Unless they physically have seen her play, they probably don't know a whole lot about her.
Right, and I think that can be an advantage, because when we go to Austin P on Friday, they have 2 seniors who are playing 1 and 2, and we've all watched them play for 4 years now. So we have been running specific drills for when we're playing against them, because we have a pretty good idea of what to expect. And like you said, the opposite of that, they may have seen her at a tournament, but they won't have had much exposure to her game.
In the other sports, and I'll just use baseball, for example. Baseball, now there are companies that have really jumped on board and taken advantage of trying to inject sabermetrics into a business model, meaning they can go over every single Division I baseball game, and they can sabermetrically chart things about, okay, so many pitches, this guy might be hitting this batting average against a right-handed batter, against a left-handed batter. It seems like that would be a market for tennis. Are there companies that are producing some sort of scouting reports about other Division I competition? Have you heard that? I mean, I know it exists in other sports. Have you heard anything about it maybe happening in tennis?
Yeah, there are companies that you can hire to, like if you send them in match, that they'll break down the match for you, but they're not then distributing that to other schools, because you're the one who's paying for that. So it's not really widely televised. Maybe at the SEC level or something like that, you're going to get more video content. We just don't have a lot of video content. I mean, even at our OVC tournament, we don't even have live stats. So we don't have film. We don't have live stats either. So it's just it's just not available.
Is there ever a time, because I know this happens in other sports, where you can speak to a school that may have already played somebody and they will give you a scouting report, or does that not happen?
I mean, you can do that, but also, I mean, players play different each day, and then you don't always know if somebody's going to make a change in their lineup. Like we base when we're practicing what we think it's going to be, but then they could change their lineup within a spot, For the most part, it should be close, but it can also change. And then again, certain players, when they match up, they're going to play differently against certain people, so it gets muddled a little bit because people have different playing styles,
How long does it take you to set the doubles lineup, knowing that, hey, I think that these two really have good chemistry? You may not have known that going into the season. I know you're practicing. How often do you change that, and how tedious can it be sometimes to try and pair 2 players that you think really could work well and have success together?
So we are really fortunate because in our fall tournaments, we still have pretty much the same doubles teams that we had in the fall. So that's a huge advantage for us, and I think that's been one reason why we've won the doubles point a lot in our matches, and I think that's because we have been able to have more experience together, and we haven't been having to change doubles teams and things like that. If you look, I'm pretty sure that we have winning records at 1, 2, and 3, and that's been huge for our program, that we haven't had to go in and change doubles teams mid-season. So that is a huge advantage.
So I think after starting the season with 3 losses to Arkansas State, Missouri, and St. Louis, all away from Cape, I believe you are now, 8-3 since the first 3 matches of the season. Obviously, the competition level was good at the beginning of the season. Have you just seen them get progressively better to win 8 of your last 11?
Yeah, there's some different factors that are involved. Again, as you pointed out, we have 5 freshmen on roster, so I think there were some nerves the first few matches, and then we've really kind of been able to work through that. We do have tournaments in the fall, but it's individual tournaments, so it's not the same atmosphere as when we're going in and playing these dual matches. So I think getting 3 under our belt, and we were close against St. Louis. We were so close against St. Louis, so we started really kind of starting to gel after that. And it helps us too now that we're outside. We don't have an indoor training facility as far as indoor tennis courts, so now we're a strong outdoor team, and that's great. And now we're playing our matches outdoors, and I think that's really going to be an advantage for us as well.
So you start in January 25th and 26th. You played in Columbia against Arkansas State and Missouri, and obviously you're not playing outside in January. How big of a difference is it to play outside versus inside?
It's a big difference because also indoor facilities, they can run kind of fast, like the surface a little bit. And then again, we're practicing on kind of a fast rubberized surface, so we weren't playing on a true court whenever we went into these matches. But it has its advantages too, I think, as far as your return in your hands and things like that. So I think everything kind of works out, but it is different when you're playing an indoors team too. They're not used to the elements. Like, they'll go inside anytime it's a little windy or a little something a little bit below, but us, we're used to playing in it, and I think it really makes us a stronger team. We're able to handle those elements, the sun in your eyes, the wind, things like that. We're comfortable playing in that because that's what we're used to playing in.
Mary Beth Gunn is the tennis coach at Southeast Missouri State. She is our guest. I don't know where you practice indoors. Where are you as a team practicing when the weather is bad? Where do you guys go?
So we're inside the Student Rec Center on campus. There's kind of like a rubberized track surface court that we're using, and we tape lines, and we have a net that we put out. So that's where we're practicing at.
How tricky is that? And you can only do so much at one time. You can't have multiple players doing different things unless you're just doing drill work, right?
Right. When we're inside, we're mostly doing drill work and then doubles as well. And I will say this: I always think there's a positive to every maybe negative, but I think it made us a stronger doubles teams. Like, we got to focus more on doubles because we were inside. So, and doubles really has been key to a lot of our success, especially our 4-3 wins. Those were matches where we were able to get that doubles point. So I think that's kind of the positive side to that.
As far as technique with forehand, backhand, things of that nature, the two-handed backhand, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is that something that most players are using? Are they not using the two-handed backhand? Is it better for some players, not so much for other players?
So with the two-handed backhand, for the women's sports, you're going to see 95% of the females probably with the two-handed backhand. It's rare to see the one-handed backhand. Now, I say that, and the number 1 and 2 at Austin Peay actually do have one-hand backhands. So there are some positives and some negatives to that, and so we have to try to expose that a little bit.
I remember when I was younger, there were several players that were just super reliant on topspin. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on players that use a lot of topspin? Do you teach that? I mean, obviously there's going to be topspin, but I'm reaching for tennis questions here. I just thought I was such a topspin person, but
yeah.
Sometimes you obviously when you're hitting, you want to hit deep, and if you're using a lot of topspin, sometimes you're not hitting it as deep.
I would say that in the men's side, they're hitting with a ton of topspin because they're also hitting so hard, so like their ball wouldn't stay in if it didn't have it. On the women's side, they tend to play a little bit more flat, kind of flattening out the shot, but we do work on topspin. We have a wire that we put across the court, and they have to hit over this wire with topspin to try and get the ball deep. And sometimes it's depending on who you're playing against, as far as if you're trying to hit with more spin or slice, or you're able to flatten out. The flat shot's a little riskier because it doesn't have the spin pulling the ball back down into the court. So if you're missing a lot of balls, then I'm going to come to your court and say, hey, you either need to slice or you need to be putting more topspin on your shots. So that's kind of the biggest difference there. And there's some players, if you're slicing or hitting more topspin, they don't like it. And other people love it. So some of that's depending on who you're playing against.
All right, the serve and volley. How many do you have a specific technique, or sometimes you play to the strength of the particular player, where they may really excel at serve and volley? They are really great at the net. Other players are much more maybe of a baseline player. Do you try and put everybody into the same system? How does that work?
So for serve and volley, you have to have a very good serve in order to execute that, because the return has gotten better as you know, like racket technology has improved a lot over the years, and also the strings that go in them too. So you do have to have a big serve, especially for singles, to pull it off. I would say that for college tennis, you're going to see people who are more baseliners. They're going to come into the net just probably not off the serve unless they do have a really big serve. So yeah, and you're going to have to make adjustments based on who you're playing against too. Again,
you know, if you're going to see some tennis highlights, oftentimes you're going to see some players that make these unbelievable shots. It seems like, you know, once every day, if you're seeing a tennis highlight, somebody's going to the baseline and they're hitting it between their legs. You practice that stuff, right?
We don't practice hitting it in between the legs.
I know. I'm saying some of the players, they do.
Yeah,
I mean, they're practicing shots that you know, they may be out of position where they may have to try and make a shot. You don't ever see any of the players just goofing around and
Yeah. I mean, I think for the most part, we try to play high percentage tennis, which means when you get in trouble that you're gonna go cross with the ball or up, you know, so that you have more time to recover. Some people do try to go for that big down the line shot, and again, it's probably about a 30% chance shot. So and then you're looking like, am I doing it? If I'm up 40 love, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? As much as I'm down love 40, and then I try to hit this amazing shot down the line, probably wasn't the best thing to do. So it's situational. But I really preach, you know, I know it looks fancy to go for some of these shots, but they end up being low percentage shots, and they can really hurt us in the long run sometimes.
Extremely low percentage shots. Okay, so for an average player, how many serves are they working on per day? Like in basketball, you hear, okay, I'm going to shoot this many free throws, or I'm going to go out and shoot this many jump shots. How often are players working on their serve? Is that a daily thing? And how many serves a day does maybe the average tennis player work on?
Yeah, we work on serves daily. It's really important. But at the same time, there's a fine line between going too much and then we start having shoulder or back problems, things like that. So we do a little bit every day, and instead of doing a lot, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. You know, so I try to get in, I would say, at least 10 to 20 minutes per day of serving and returning versus a bigger block of time.
What's the biggest thing you see where kids are struggling with their serve, the most common thing that you as a coach can work on mechanically and get their serve kind of back on track? Where you'll notice something and say, okay, that's not going to work. It may have worked where you played before, but this is how we do it here.
Yeah, I mean, I think just seeing some recreational players or kids who are in high school and things like that. I've worked with some juniors in the area. The biggest thing is to get the grip right. So if you don't have the right grip, then you're not really going to be able to advance your serve. So you need to have a continental grip on your serve so that you can do different things as far as spin and things like that. For us, everybody coming in already has that grip. So it's more working on serve placement, different spins on the balls, things like that.
What have you noticed as far as a lot of the players that you have been in contact with or coached, or when does the average collegiate player start playing tennis? How old are they?
I mean, some of them, they post that they've been playing since they're 2, you know. But I'd say that I would say around 5 for the really serious players. Like they've started very young, 5 or 6 years old, for sure.
And they start. It's not just go out and play with mom and dad. I mean, they have tennis coaches when they're 5, right?
Oh yeah, and a lot of times it's their parents. So that's always an interesting dynamic. But yeah, it's you're seeing at a very young age for the elite players that you're trying to recruit.
All right, we're going to talk with Isabella Krupa. Tell us about her recruitment and about what it's like to have seen her maturation as a player.
I actually I didn't recruit her. I wasn't here then. So when I took over in November, she was here as a freshman. But she works hard, and I was happy to have her remain on the team. She's always been very passionate about SEMO tennis. You're not going to find somebody who is more passionate about it than we are, you know. So she's been great. She's a very driven player. She wants the team to do well. She's just 100% in. If you go watch her play, you're going to see that on the court. You're going to see that passion and energy on the court. She lets that shine through every time.
Mary Beth Gunn is the tennis coach at Southeast Missouri State. We're going to talk with Isabella Krupa when we come back from this timeout. We are at Wings Etc. in Jackson. It's the Red Hawks Coaches Show. We'll talk with Isabella Krupa from the Red Hawks tennis team when we come back on SEMO ESPN.
At our West Park Mall location, our newest brands are blossoming all over the store. Come see us today and be the first to see collections from Kate Spade, Lily Pulitzer, and Louis Vuitton. Our spring transformation is underway with new styles from Natural Life, Simply Southern, Vineyard Vines, Ivoriella, and Cavu. The shipments are arriving daily with Teletyze, Pure Vita, Life is Good, and Lamp Berger. We've traveled far and wide to bring you the most stylish boutique clothing in the area. Imagine That is ready to help you sparkle in our newest spring styles. Stop in, browse, laugh at our giant selection of funny socks. Check out Vera Bradley's newest spring patterns and so much more. Imagine That is the happiest store in town. Let our friendly staff help you get ready for those warmer days ahead. Imagine That in Cape Girardeau's West Park Mall, where happiness never goes out of style. Shop in-store or online at ImagineThatBoutique.com.
Does having a game on the TV make a sports bar? Wings Etc. in Cape and Jackson beg to differ.
They take their sports bar status seriously.
Wings Etc. is the host of the SEMO Coaches Show every Monday from noon to 1.
You can watch SEMO away games at Wings Etc.
Plus, get lunch specials and daily specials like 69-cent wings on Monday, 69-cent rib tips on Tuesday,
59-cent shrimp on Wednesday,
69-cent wings on Thursday and Friday, too.
Plus, they've got free Wi-Fi and a full-service bar and craft beer.
Wings Etc.
The definition of a sports bar.
And now, your ESPN Radio Network local weather forecast.
An abundant sunshine here today as we'll see temperatures edge up to 63. Clear tonight, low 42. Sun in the morning tomorrow.
It's our next to last show of the season. We won't be doing another coaches show until football season gets here in the fall, except for next week. Next week will be our final show, so we hope that you will join us. We'll be over in the Cape Girardeau Wings Etc. location. And if you don't know where the Cape Wings is located, if you know where Steak and Shake is, they're right in front of West Park Mall. They share the parking lot with Steak and Shake. So we hope to see you next week at our final show for 2018-19's academic year, and that will be at noon on Monday. We invite you to stop by. You can enjoy their daily half-pound lunch specials here at Wings Etc. They start at just $6.99, and their appetizer lineup includes their ultimate nachos, their pickle spears. If you don't want to partake of their award-winning jumbo wings, And I don't understand why, but they have a huge menu, including their freshly made burgers, subs, quesadillas, entree salads, wraps, and much, much more. It's Wings, etc. And don't forget, Cardinal baseball, not today, but tomorrow. They'll wrap up their series in Pittsburgh. And then Thursday, they're at Busch for the home opener. If you don't have tickets, you can come here and watch the game, watch the pageantry of opening day, which is Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and that will be Thursday, and you can watch it all right here at Wings, etc. Blues are making their playoff push, and you can watch Blues hockey here as well. The Final Four is here, and so all kinds of things to do at Wings, etc., and that's in the Cape or the Jackson location. Isabella Krupa is a member of the Redhawks tennis team, and she joins us here at Wings. Now, we have been told that your boyfriend works at Wings. Which one does he work at, and is our information accurate?
Yes, so he works in this one at Jackson, and yeah, it's really interesting when people ask me, because they ask what his name is, and I say, well, his name is Richard Nixon, and then they don't believe me, but it is really his name, so it's like, I guess, our favorite joke.
I was going to say, he's probably heard some pretty good jokes over the. He's got to have a few good comebacks for that when people find out his name is Richard Nixon, right?
I think it's a good icebreaker for him. So, and then for me, it's no one takes me serious when I say that. So I don't know about me.
But you let people know right away that he's not a crook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to keep that joke.
All right. So you are from Kissimmee, Florida. And not originally from Kissimmee, but you moved to Kissimmee, Florida. You were telling me you're from Chicago.
Yes, I was born in Des Plaines near Chicago, and I moved down to Florida for tennis when I was about 12 years old. Yes, and my family is from Serbia, so it's a very different background, very international background, but I'm Americanized. So.
All right, so when did your parents come to the United States from Serbia?
I think it was around the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. They moved down for better life, obviously, and they met each other here in America, and then just right then, there's me.
So they were both from Serbia, and they met in America?
Yes, my mom's from Serbia, and my dad is from the Bosnia-Montenegro area. So
that's pretty neat,
yeah.
that they ended up meeting in the United States and both from other countries.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
How about Chicago? When did you move from Chicago? Do you remember living in Chicago?
Yeah, I remember. I kind of grew up being a kid, I guess, playing in the snow and having neighbors and hopping fences. So that was really fun. And so I have that memory, but then most of my memories come from Florida, where it's just tennis.
And there is no snow. I mean, I don't know. Has it ever snowed in Kissimmee? I would guess no.
I swear, there was this one time at 2 a.m., everyone was saying, it's snowing, and I think it snowed for 1 minute, but it melted before it reached the ground.
So you actually saw snow down in Kissimmee?
That's what we say.
All right. Well, people understand Kissimmee is the home, basically, of Disney World is down there, Universal Studios down there, Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville inside and everything, the Harry Potter Wizards area for Universal. That is a very popular tourist destination. How many times have you been to Disney World?
Sometimes I think I live there. If they find me, they kick me out, but I try to sleep in Universal, and it's really fun. I do miss that part because all the amusement parks, and it's just so extra over there. But I like Cape. I really like Southeast Missouri, so I don't regret moving from Florida.
You can't
to
like
here.
this weather though that we've had this winter.
I don't know. I'm not really good with cold. I found out, but
I found out.
But I do like the change because it's always hot in Florida, and I really do like seeing weather changes. And there's a lot of deer here. We don't really have that much deer in Florida. At least I don't see them, so it's really fun. Unless they go in front of your car, then it's not fun.
Yeah, that's
anymore.
no good then. That's no good. Have you ever been down to the Keys?
To the Keys?
Yeah.
In Florida?
Yeah.
I'm not sure because
south of Florida, there are 120 miles of islands, and they're called Keys. Key West is the very last one. What I was going to say was there is a key called Big Pine Key, and the key deer are there, and they look like small dogs. They're full grown. They are endangered species, but they are key deer. And so, those are more of the deer that I think I've seen in Florida. I used to live in Key West, so I didn't know if you'd ever been south in the Keys or not.
No, I guess my parents were like, no, you're just going to play tennis, and then you can go to Universal, and that's it. So.
Well, that sounds like a fun thing to be able to go to Universal and Disney growing up. I think I went when I was 9, maybe been there, 8 or 9 times since then. When did you start playing tennis?
So it is a little different for me. I did start around 10 years old, which a lot of people consider is kind of late for tennis, but I think I picked up on it really quick. My favorite part starting tennis was to hit people. So
to hit people, all right.
So that's how I kind of grew to love the sport, and then everything else around it.
So when you first started playing, did your parents get you a coach right away?
Yes, I think if I remember, I went to kind of a small club, and because my parents never really played tennis, so they had me with a coach. But of course, they run on the court like they know it all, and then they try to coach me too. And so yeah, that was my experience.
So did you really like tennis at first? I mean, because sometimes maybe it becomes a bit of a chore, and maybe it seems like, man, this is a lot more work than I thought. Or did you really fall in love with tennis when you first started?
I think I really fell in love with it because I remember